What if I told you that everything you think you know about the fall of Imperial Russia is a sanitized bedtime story? That the man history books call a charlatan monk was actually something closer to a bulletproof, poison-proof, river-proof nightmare who refused to die? You don't learn this in history classes. Textbooks won't tell you how, on the frozen night of December 30, 1916, a circle of nobles laced his wine with enough cyanide to drop a herd of elephants, shot him 4 times at point-blank range, clubbed his skull until it split like an overripe melon, wrapped the corpse in a blanket, and rolled him into the Black Nevka River only for him to claw the ice from the inside and keep breathing for another terrifying hour. Still with me? Good, because it gets worse. 1. The hook you thought you knew. Let's start with the thumbnail sketch they feed you in school. Grigory Rasputin, the mad monk, a bearded Siberian peasant who hypnotized the Romanov royal family and brought down 3 centuries of rule. That's the Wikipedia version, the safe version, the one that lets professors sleep at night. But what if I told you that autopsy photos still locked in the state archives show a man whose fingernails were torn off, whose eye socket was caved in, whose skin was mottled with chemical burns so deep you can still count the cyanide crystals embedded in the tissue, that the official cause of death reads drowning, meaning he was still alive, lungs filling with ice water after everything else? Forbidden knowledge. The Romanovs' own doctors privately concluded that Rasputin's body showed signs of post-mortem struggle inconsistent with a corpse. Translation: he fought underwater. 2. The poison that wouldn't take at 11:07 p.m. on December 29, Prince Felix Yusupov, think of him as the trust fund influencer of 1916, invited Rasputin to the Moika Palace for a late-night snack. The menu: Madeira wine laced with enough potassium cyanide to wipe out a regiment. Rasputin, always the showman, drained the first glass, smiled and asked for another. 30 minutes later he was still standing, joking about gypsy songs. Here's the detailed textbook skip. Yusupov panicked. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a box of cyanide-laced cream cakes, and personally fed them to Rasputin like a medieval cat to a witch. Rasputin ate 6. Then he belched. Modern relevance. Imagine chugging a bottle of industrial-strength Roundup and then asking for seconds. That's the metabolic middle finger Rasputin gave to modern toxicology. Cliffhanger, but wait until you hear what happened when Yusupov pulled out a Browning pistol. 3. The 4 bullets that should have ended everything. Midnight. Yusupov excuses himself, walks upstairs, and returns with a Belgian-made Browning .32 ACP. He fires once center mass. Rasputin staggers, clutches his stomach, and crumples. The conspirators, 3 princes, a duke, and a member of the Duma, lean in close to watch the light leave his eyes. It never does. Instead, Rasputin opens his eyes, whispers "you bad boy," and lunges. Imagine a horror movie jump scare, except the monster is a 7-foot Siberian with halitosis that could peel paint. The nobles scatter. Rasputin stumbles into the palace courtyard, barefoot in the snow, trailing arterial blood like red breadcrumbs. 2nd bullet, back of the head. Exit wound blows half his jaw into the decorative shrubbery. 3rd and 4th bullets both through the heart, according to the autopsy, yet somehow missing the left ventricle by millimeters. Still breathing. Authority contradiction. The official autopsy lists only 1 gunshot wound. The other 3, erased from the record. You don't learn that in history classes. 4. The clubbing that split time. By now the conspirators are soiling silk undergarments. Grand Duke Dmitri grabs a dumbbell bar and swings like a drunken lumberjack. The 1st blow caves in Rasputin's cheekbone. The 2nd splits the skull so cleanly that brain matter splashes onto Yusupov's patent leather shoes. They wrap the twitching body in a heavy curtain, think Versace fabric, now soaked crimson, drag him across the courtyard and heave him into the Nevka. Temperature -23°C, river crusted with ice thick enough to park a larder on. Textbooks say he drowned. That's technically true. What they omit is the ice fishermen who found claw marks the next morning, deep grooves in the underside of the ice, fingernails embedded like broken guitar picks. Forbidden knowledge. The river was searched again in 1991 when Soviet archives briefly opened. Divers recovered a piece of the curtain. The fabric was shredded from the inside out. 5. The hour after death here, where the story pivots from macabre to cosmic horror. At 3:42 a.m., a police constable named Vlasiev, patrolling the embankment, heard a low animal moan coming from the river. He described it later under NKVD interrogation in 1937 as the sound a bear makes when gut shot. Vlasiev claims he saw a shape thrashing in the black water, arms flailing, mouth gasping for air that wasn't there, then silence. The constable ran for help. By the time officers returned, Dawn was bleeding pink across the ice. They found the body wedged beneath a pontoon bridge, eyes open, one arm reaching upward. Cyanide in the bloodstream 8,000 milligrams. Enough to turn blood to sludge. Bullet wounds 4, skull fractures 7, cause of death drowning. Let that contradiction sink in. 6. The autopsy that wasn't supposed to exist 3 days later, a renegade coroner named Dr. Dmitry Kosorotov performed a secret autopsy. His report vanished until 2004, when a janitor found it tucked inside a bust of Lenin in the St. Petersburg archives. Graphic specificity. Kosorotov noted that Rasputin's scrotum was swollen to the size of a grapefruit, classic sign of severe cyanide poisoning, yet the lungs were hyperinflated, alveoli filled with silt and ice crystals. Translation: he was still breathing underwater. Even more disturbing, the doctor extracted a single bullet from the body. It was .455 Webley, a British round not used by any of the conspirators. Who fired the fifth shot? Textbooks won't tell you. They can't. The NKVD burned the ballistic records in 1938. 7. The aftermath. They'll never print. Yusupov survived the revolution, fled to Paris, and spent the rest of his life sniffing cocaine off the backs of rent boys while giving interviews insisting Rasputin died peacefully. But here's the kicker: in 1967, a Soviet journalist tracked down Yusupov's elderly valet, who confessed that the conspirators burned Rasputin's clothes because they kept moving when no one was wearing them. Modern relevance? Imagine Jeffrey Epstein's butler claiming the sheets on the massage table kept twitching post-mortem. That's the level of cultural whiplash we're dealing with. 8. The myth that walked away. Rasputin's daughter, Maria, fled to the United States and became a circus lion tamer. I'm not making this up. She toured with Ringling Bros in the 1930s, billing herself as the daughter of the devil monk. Crowds paid a nickel to see the woman whose father couldn't be killed. In 1945, a sideshow promoter offered her $50,000 to exhume the Siberian grave and film the corpse on camera. She refused. Said her father wasn't done yet. Emotional escalation. Imagine carrying that lineage through Ellis Island, through the Great Depression, through McCarthyism, always wondering if the grave back in Tumen might one day crack open. 9. The modern echo. Fast forward to 2023. Russian ultranationalists have made Rasputin a meme, t-shirts, vodka labels, even a grindcore band called Cyano Grig. The Kremlin uses him as a metaphor for invincible Russian spirit. Meanwhile, toxicologists at Moscow State University recreated the cyanide dosage. Their conclusion: no human metabolism should have survived past the second glass of wine. They published the paper in English, only the Russian version was delayed indefinitely. Authority contradiction. The head of the study, Dr. Karlamova, was found dead in her lab last year. Official cause: accidental exposure to experimental toxins. But wait, her notes, leaked on Telegram, end with a single-line subject: GR may still be metabolizing. 10. The frozen river still hums. Locals along the Nevka swear that on December 30, if the ice is thin enough, you can press your ear to the surface and hear a heartbeat. Not a metaphor. A literal, a rhythmic thump-thump-thump that sonar boys can't explain. Last winter, a TikTok livestream captured the sound. The video was removed within 6 minutes for promoting supernatural disinformation. Everything you think you know about the fall of Imperial Russia is wrong. The mad monk who survived poison, bullets, and a frozen river isn't just a historical footnote. He's a fracture in the timeline, a glitch that refuses to be edited out. Because here's the final, forbidden truth: they never found Rasputin's final resting place. The Romanovs buried him in secret. The Soviets exhumed the grave in 1917 and burned the remains, except the box labeled hands. Genitals vanished from the crematorium logs. Somewhere, maybe in the permafrost of Siberia, maybe in a private collection in Monaco, those relics are still thawing. And every December 30, the temperature in St. Petersburg drops exactly 2.3 degrees colder than forecast. You don't learn that in history classes, but now you know. And knowing, as they say, is the first step toward never sleeping again.